Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Pat Chamberlain.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco of SmokinTobacco.com. I am not joined by my co-host, Mr. Patrick Chamberlain. The Gurkha Cigar Studios are empty tonight. Pat had a case that he had. For those who don't know, but most people do, Pat's an attorney, so he got caught up with a case at work. So he's not here. But with me, I do have a very good friend of mine. Who's also gone through a lot of changes in life recently, and definitely some stuff to celebrate and be excited about. It's my very good friend, Mr. Eddy Guerra. I'm going to bring him right in here. Eddy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you very much for having me on the show, and celebration indeed, my friend.
So first of all, for those who don't know, Eddy just became a dad for the first time, so welcome to the club. I have one
Thank you.
question to ask you. Are you tired yet?
Exhausted.
It doesn't get any
I'm not
better,
even
buddy.
egg, exhausted, man. I don't even know how else. Here's what happens. You get pregnant for the first time with your wife, and everyone's like, "Yes, it's about time." Or like, when you first get married, everyone's like, "When are you gonna have kids?" Everyone's like hyping you up, and it's almost awkward where you're like, "Bro, give me some breathing room." You finally get pregnant, and then every single person that tells you join the club then starts telling you, "Bro, you get your sleep now, man, because that shit's gone.
Yep.
This is gonna be the worst." And it's like, wait,
Yep.
what? What happened to what happened to all the hype that you were talking about? I feel like there's a real big bait and switch, for the record. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for those of you guys who are younger watching, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's
wouldn't
pretty
wouldn't
cool, but
wouldn't trade them for the world. I mean, this
yeah.
kid is just but don't do it.
Not if you enjoy sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I
Not if you
remember
enjoy
that
sleep.
that's that summer when Nicole was pregnant with Anastasia. Um, I mean, whenever I had the opportunity, because like her brother was always around and stuff, and he's around my age, and we have a lot of the same interests. So like, I was fucking around whenever I could, because I was like, that's it. After this, like, I ain't going out. That was the summer he decided to buy and fix up an old jet ski, and then we took it down to the Charles River, and we were blasting away on it. And our friends would come over on Friday and Saturday night. We'd hanging out and drink and smoke cigars, and then baby came, and it was like it was all over. It's just all over. That was it.
It's all over.
Yeah. I mean, I became a master at diapering after the first 2 weeks. I mean, I really got it down. I would watch other people. See, this is the thing. Like, I wouldn't say I have OCD, or at least full blown. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this now that you've been through this a little bit. But like, like I'm not like obsessed. Like if I see something, I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself if I don't fix it. But like, I definitely take notice when people do things a certain way. And like I'd watch people like diaper her. I'm not mentioning any names because there's no reason for that. And it would be kind of like, kind of like, no, I don't want to say half-assed, but it's not like straight, whatever. It's like putting a band on a cigar. Like you want it all like even out. It's got to be all lined up.
Perfect.
And so like I made it a mission to like make sure every diaper I put on, like she was in square the right way. It came over. The flaps were like nice and straight. I mean, I got that shit down. And it's amazing because 2 or 3 weeks before that, I mean, like, I knew the kid was coming, but it was like, I wasn't thinking about that. And then all of a sudden she came and I'm like, all this like new stuff. I'm like, I got to like be the best at this. Like, can't have some like half-ass diaper. It's got to be on there right. You know what I mean? Like the milks, like and the formulas, like I'd like measure it exact. And then, even Nicole would still
I'm
yell at me and be like, that's too much. And I'm like, I swear it's not. So,
I'm very much the same, my friend.
are you,
Yeah,
well, actually, maybe I shouldn't
very
ask you
much.
this publicly. Um, I was going to ask you what form of nutrition, but you don't have to share that. I can always talk to you after, unless you want.
Both. Yeah, yeah. It's both. But again, it was just a little difficult. Like as I mentioned, man, the child was born and he was in the NICU for a little over a week and a
Yeah.
half, almost 2 weeks.
Well, it's a good thing.
So
I mean, it's a good thing he's doing better now, which I'm happy for you.
yeah,
Because
he's good. Everything's all good. But like imagine that was a challenge. So I dove right in. My wife was recovering from emergency C-section, and I was like, I'm gonna do all the diaper change and all that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really pay attention in the class and all that kind of shit.
yeah,
But how hard can it be? And the reality is, how hard can it be? It's really not that hard, right? So you just be thorough, and who gives a shit? And so I perfected it rather quickly, I like to think. And then my practicing afterwards, once he was in the NICU, was like you're doing it with all sorts of wires and cables and everything. Um, so that I think made it a little bit trickier, and I was able to master that. So, dude, life's good, man. Life's good. Um, he's home. He's adorable. Wife's happy. You know, no sleep, but that all fixes itself.
your time will come. That you'll learn that especially when he gets a little bit bigger and he's napping like once or twice a day. Your nap time on the weekend. That when they go down for a nap, that's your time. You have to decide, and you have to decide ahead of time. You can't decide like, do I go take a nap? Like you have to be ready for it mentally, or you'll never fall asleep. You have to know like when they go down, like whenever they do down, like go and be ready.
I'll tell you what. One thing. It's a weird statement to make, but this child has made me appreciate cigars significantly more
Mm.
because I come pre-child from a time where for the last 44 years I could have a cigar whenever, however I wanted to. Um, that is no longer the case.
No.
So, it's, because you can't just like smoke and pick up a kid right away and all that kind of stuff. You gotta, and then you just gotta choose your time. So, it's actually been great when it comes to the enjoyment of products because I really get to sit down and savor the moment that much more.
Oh yeah. I mean, before my daughter came along, I was smoking 3 or 4 cigars a day. Like at the end of the
Hmm.
day, like when I was all done, like I'd go out and I would just start ripping through stuff, because we're us, we're always trying new stuff. So I was ripping through stuff. I mean, I used to fill the barrel with the ashtray like once a week, like, and then she came along and it was significantly less, and it gets better. I will tell you, it gets better. It won't be as bad in the very beginning because they need so much attention. But as time goes on, once you get to that first year, you start to feel a little bit better, and then God forbid you have any other issues, then it gets better. It's never the same, but it gets a lot better. I promise, it does. It's only like the most, like I feel like I can't do anything for like the first year, and then it's always kind of like that, but it gets a little easier. That's the best. I mean, in my experience. So,
Yeah,
but anyway, welcome to the
I'm
club.
stoked. Thanks, man. And it's. Let me tell you that I know that we just started with this, and it's a little, out of the ordinary for your interviews and conversations, but this little man played such a pivotal role in everything that's transpired in my career. So um, he's the reason for decisions being made and moves being made. Um, so it's definitely it's cool, man. It's cool to have all this transition and change in my life.
Well, I was gonna
So
say the last time I saw you, well, not saw you, but last time you were on this show, you were working for Davidoff, which obviously you
I,
don't
I, I
anymore.
was head of brand marketing for Davidoff. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
So things have changed. Now, I was around the holidays when you told me that you were leaving, and um, yeah, you were going to be doing some new things, and I think some of that changed along the way. But I know that a lot of it, like you said, it kind of originated with you found out your wife was pregnant. And I was obviously very excited for you. But then kind of like out of the blue, a few months ago now,
Yeah.
we get the word that Eddy Guerra is joining La Flor Dominicana, and I'm like, what? That's crazy. Eddy
Yeah.
Guerra, LFD. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Like, but you know, now here
Nah.
you are.
Yeah. It was unexpected and very welcome. It's such a weird thing, man. Professional career aside, journey of everything aside, I think, and you've heard me preach this a lot. We must be consumers first, right? And consumer Eddie has always been a massive fan of LFD.
Hmm.
It's something I've always voiced. I've never not shared that, even when I was at Davidoff or prior at Ultimus. I've always said, I mean, I think they're one of the most dynamic companies, even though they're, as well as LFD does and all the accolades and everything. It's really a boutique by definition company, small mom and pop family, right? I've always just loved the product. Uh, had a very tight relationship with the family. Never in a million years did I ever even think the doors would even be opened up for me to join the company or anything of that nature. And it technically was never even in the plans. It was just kismet, as they say.
Hmm.
I had a wonderful time at Davidoff. It was essentially my dream company. Um, it just got to a point when I found out I was going to be a father. I had to make decisions I never thought I had to make in my life.
Hmm.
What do I see my future like? Um, what am I going to be doing with my time? What do I see my future like in 20 years? And, I just said, I'm I'm gonna walk away and do what and I'm incredibly grateful for everything Davidoff gave me. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to even list all the things. They've been awesome to me. When I left, they were kind of like, why? And I really didn't know how to explain it, but I was just like, I know what I want to do. I'm gonna be a father, and this is how I want to live my life, and kind of nothing really matters. And I think I spoke to you about it. I mean, I said I was going to start building something on my own, not necessarily related to tobacco.
Hmm. Yeah.
I just felt
We've
like,
talked about it, but I'll let you. You
yeah. I
know.
mean, I got hyper involved in the barbecue space, and I still am, and I'm doing something in the barbecue space that's not necessarily like I'm not starting my own cigar brand or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, and whatever. So it was almost kind of like I'm gonna leave the tobacco business in some weird way, without really telling it to anybody. And you know, I was at Antonio's wedding in Las Vegas, and I'm spending time with the family. We're super close, and I told them I was leaving. They were the first people to know, but that again has nothing to do with the story. And I just was there talking with Lito Jr. for a while, and I don't know I really don't know what happened. To be honest, it's kind of a blur to me. All I know is about February, March. They kind of called me and was like, they have these incredible plans and goals and transformations for the future. And basically, I had the opportunity if they said, we know you're doing what you're doing, but what would you consider working with a family? And for me, it was kind of a no-brainer moment. It's just a brand I've always loved and cherished, and it still gave me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do, anyways. And I just felt, dude, this is gonna be a super wild ride because I've always done really major corporate stuff. I always try to be soul-driven first. It's a little difficult when you're dealing with a corporation that's like multinational, and LFD really provided the platform of, man, this is like super authentic, and it's one of my favorite brands. So that's kind of how it happened. There's a lot of plans that are smushed in the middle of that, but
That's
here
the
we are now.
gist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good
And
to
now
see.
we celebrate.
Yeah, now we celebrate. You new career change, welcome to fatherhood. Your whole life's different
Thank
now,
you.
and it looks
My
good on
whole
you.
life is different. I am. This is not a plug, but this is a wonderful celebration pour for any bourbon enthusiast or rye enthusiast out there. This is the Willet Single Barrel Family Estate Life of Lux Candy Crush Barrel Pick.
Ooh, barrel pick.
One of
Ooh,
134 bottles. It is a banger, and now we celebrate on Smoking Tobacco.
wow! Look at you. It's funny. I didn't even think to grab any booze. I fucked that up.
Not everyone's perfect, man. Not everyone's perfect.
Yeah, I know. I know. Man, it's been a few weeks of my own too. Which
Yeah,
I won't get too into it, and the reason I don't want to get too into it is just because there's a lot of layers to the situation that we haven't decided how we're going to handle in the future. So
yeah.
I'm gonna just say that. But for people who are asking, Anastasia is doing okay, and I appreciate everyone who's reached out. Um, but she had hip dysplasia surgery. She's in a spica cast or a body cast from about here down, um,
Oof.
and which is daunting in itself. And we're a little bit past halfway on that. But right there in the middle here, we ran into several issues, and most of it being a major infection, which is a particular kind of infection that is very resistant to antibiotics and can live on hardware in your body, i.e., like if you have a plate or whatever, which she does. She has a plate and screws in her leg. So it's very challenging. We do have to give her like an IV pod kind of thing 3 times a day for the foreseeable future. It's going to be a while. And as well as some regular like antibiotics like that she drinks or whatever. But yeah, man, it's been a lot. That kid went through 3 procedures in 4 days last week, and we were at Children's Hospital for about almost a week. We went home like last Thursday. So yeah, it's been a lot. So just wanted to say that for everyone who's been reaching out and anyone who's noticed my lack of presence, I will say that. I've obviously had to prioritize that first. It's taken a toll. So I've had to really prioritize. But having said that, on the bigger picture, so far things are okay. So we're continuing to move forward for now, but just feels like everything kind of keeps changing day by day. And probably more about that in the future. But for now, I'm going to kind of limit what I do say about it. So anyway, now we got that out of the way. Our cigars of the night, once again brought to you by the number 2guyscigars.com. If you head over to 2guyscigars.com today, you'll find an amazing selection of cigar brands and cigar accessories. From brands you know and love, maybe some new ones that you've never seen before. Order some today at 2guyscigars.com. And I don't mean to speak for Eddie, but I'll make this kind of easy. I know that we're both sharing, I think, the same cigar,
Yeah.
which I'll let you talk more about, obviously. But the famous LFD Suave, which honestly was always a favorite of mine, has been redone. And that's what we're smoking here tonight on the show. But I'll let you talk about what's different about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So immediately when I joined the company, it was so I joined the company as a vice president of brand development, marketing, and when it comes to brand development, the veil is removed, and they said, "Hey, we have a project that we're going to release at the show." So I was like immediately right into the fire. Um, I actually found it to be like super cool. So Suave is you may know, may not know. We'll just call it the original Suave. Is the first blend that LFD ever came out with. Um, at the time, it was supposed to be a what they called their premium blend. It was a lot more refined, a lot more suave means soft, right? So more nuance, I guess, mild, if you would call it.
Yeah.
Um, and that made sense 30 years ago, right? As time went on, a lot has happened with the company. I mean, they started growing their own tobacco. They eventually found themselves, their blending styles, their own identity, their own brand equities. Um, and 30 years later, it's like, have you ever asked yourself, like, dude, what I know now, if I could always turn back the time, like, what would I have done different in my life? That same question could be asked about the first product that you ever came out. So we're not really saying it's a reblend or re anything. It's really more of like a re like envisioning, if you will, to still grab the same theory, the same concept of we wanted to come out with something medium, mild to medium, and refined, but it's the 2025 version of what we as a company, Lido as a master blender, does, right? And what's his version of refined today with after growing tobacco, learning everything, all the above. And this is the result of that. It's come out in two. We have a natural and a Maduro. The blend has been redone, and the Maduro that we are smoking right now is a San Andres wrapper with a Nicaraguan jalapa binder, which is also very rare for the company. They don't typically use a lot of Nicaraguan tobacco.
Right.
And the filler is all from La Canela, proprietary growing. So
Yeah,
it's a fantastic blend,
it's an
in my
interesting
opinion.
taste for an LFD cigar.
Hmm.
And it's not bad, but again, it's different. Which I think has kind of been, when you talk about the trade show,
Hmm.
everyone always talks about like, well, what did you like? What do you see? I notice a trend. So
What's that?
every year seems to be like a trend. Like was it last year or 2 years ago? A lot of Connecticut's were released, right? That was a trend. Like, well, let's see a lot of Connecticut's this year. Um, this year, so far, the trend has been companies doing something that still represents themselves very well, but at the same time, very different than what they normally do. And so far, almost all of those cigars that I have smoked, I've enjoyed, and I feel were executed very well. Um, few examples, Perdomo with their legacy. They did some different stuff there. They used some different tobaccos. I've since smoked a bunch of those, and they're great. My father Blue, which is I don't think has officially shipped yet. If it has, it just went out. I think it's still yet to come out officially. But I've smoked some of those, and I think it's supposed to be the first release out of the new Honduran factory with Honduran tobaccos,
Hmm.
and it's a my father's cigar. You can tell when you smoke it, but at the same time, it's different than what you're going to expect. And
Stand up.
I really think that cigar is great too. And then here you guys are with a brand that's not old, it's not new, but you've kind of remastered it in a way, right? And like you said, using some different tobaccos, Nicaraguan tobaccos, not something LFD really ever uses. And you can taste it. It's got kind of the identity that I would expect from an LFD cigar, but the flavor is much different, I think, than what I was expecting off of it, just a little bit. And it's good. Another cigar where it's kind of like the same thing. It's something different, but it doesn't go too far out where you kind of lose the entire identity. And there's a few others too, but I won't go down the whole list. But that seems to be, in long story short, kind of the theme this year is companies kind of experimenting and doing something different and trying to offer something different, I think, to the customer base, which again so far from what I've smoked has gone pretty well. So congratulations to you guys on that too. I mean, I was nervous when you guys told me because I was a big fan of the original, well, the older Suave line that I've been buying for the last 7 years, and I was like, oh no. And but these are good. These are good. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and the natural version, because we just spoke about the Maduro, the natural version, it went from a Connecticut blend to it now has a Corojo wrapper. It has a San Andres binder, and then again the signature La Canela Dominican fillers from LFD. I mean, is it different? I would say so, very much so. It's today's version of something from 30 years ago. Um, we call it a mild, but it's technically an LFD mild. So an LFD mild is probably somebody else's medium plus.
Yeah,
So with
yeah,
that with that said, I mean, as different as it is, it still has the LFD twang to it. Is the best way I would put it. It's definitely got that signature that LFD has. It's got that body. It's got that kick. Um, so I don't know. It's definitely very welcomed. I find it to be. I hate saying this, so probably even not like that I say this, but whatever. I find it to be a little Cuban-esque personally,
yeah.
especially the natural with the Corojo wrapper. And it's fantastic, man. And it's gonna be in actual market in July. So there's a lot of changes I'm sure we'll talk about moving forward. But one of those things would be, I mean, I don't think there was a secret ever about backorder issues or any of that stuff. But like when we say
No.
things are going to be now available in July, they will be available in July in stores. Dude, listen, at the end of the day, it's one thing I do admire about a small family organization like this is since they don't have these crazy costs that other people incur, like we're able to put this out and still do it at a reasonable like $8.50 while everything else is skyrocketing 14, 15 plus, right? So to me it is punches way above its price point, and its signature LFD, its value for money. It's a no-brainer, and we're very stoked. It sold incredibly well at the show, but we're very stoked to see what it's going to be like when consumers get their hands on it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Um, that which actually, one sec. Let me do this first before I forget about it. But our cutters and lighters once again brought to you by our friends at SC Dupont. Shake up the legacy, featuring the new monogram collection. I have the monogram line 2 right here. Ask your local retailer for ST Dupont products today. Nothing but the best. What I was gonna say was that's the other thing I kind of noticed. Maybe not so much just in last year, but the last couple of years, it's seeing a lot more Corojo tobacco, at least from my standpoint, being used by
Yeah.
different people, and I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons for that. We could probably spend a whole hour talking about that. But what I will say is, it's exciting because personally, I really like Corojo tobacco, and
Yeah.
there's some people using it right now. I'll just come out and say one of them, Pete Johnson, has been working with Corojo. And
Yeah.
I've told Pete, I'm like, wow, like I've always really liked Tatuaje, um, and I've been getting so much more into it on a personal note, as of the last couple of years. But I will say, one of the things I always liked, was obviously a lot of the broadleaf that Pete works with, and even more so, the broadleaf that comes out of the My Father factory. But now, he's been doing a lot of Corojo stuff, and there's been a few others that have been doing it, and I've really enjoyed it. And that Corojo tobacco, for me, is just continuing to be one of my new favorite, tobaccos, obsessions, etc. And you guys use it on your natural, and
Hmm.
which I don't think I smoked that one yet. But to hear you say, very Cuban-esque, that's kind of the feel I get with a lot of these, and it's kind
Yeah.
of nice. It's kind of it's like a classic feeling.
It is the classic original Cuban seed, my man.
Yeah,
What and then I've been fortunate enough to work with Corojo a lot and previous, obviously Camacho's Kings of Corojo and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. But
yeah,
It's just a varietal that grows very well in multiple regions. It thrives thoroughly in Honduras. It does very well in Ecuador. It does incredibly well in Dominican Republic. I mean, it does well everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic tobacco. It's one of my favorite varietals personally. I'm not going to put my words in anybody else's mouth, but I'm stoked about it. And yeah, man, it's these are two great blends hitting the market. I'm super pumped to see what happens, and we'll be doing some really neat executions throughout the country, activations, which is something a little different. The LFD's never really done before. We're going to be activating pretty heavy and doing cigar education, component tastings all throughout the country in shops. Lito Jr. is spearheading that. That's going to be a really fun, cool thing. I think consumers are going to like it. I think shops are going to find it fun. It's a cool thing. It's a very cool thing, actually.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I mean, Lito's, well, both, all, I think everyone in that family, with the exception of Inez, has been on the show. But I think Lito Jr. was on somewhat recently. But not since you started. But, I know he's still a little younger, and he's getting into the family business now, and he's really coming to his own. Watching the last couple of years, and it's been exciting. I've always loved him. And he's a fun guy. I love hanging out with him and seeing him at events and stuff like that, and really seeing him kind of do his thing. And it's got to be for you. I mean, I'm sure you get to work with him a lot more than
Yeah,
probably everybody else, because I know Tony and Lito, Senior, are down in the factory, and
yeah.
you guys are up here. So what's it been like? I mean, do you kind of feel like you know you're kind of coming into this role where you're also being like kind of like a big brother to him too, because he's still kind of new to a lot of things, and obviously with your illustrious career that you've had, you've had a lot of experience that you could obviously share with him.
Uh, yes and no. Um, he's very much his own person.
Oh, that's good.
So, uh, how do I say it? I never. I'm very close with Antonio. I've always been. He's been one
Right.
of my closest friends. Junior was just his little brother at the time, right? Always loved him. I thought he was a super cool kid and
Yeah.
whatever. But on a professional level, if I remove my emotional piece, it's been very cool to see him evolve in the last year and a half. Um, you're you're talking about somebody who essentially was born with the rights to this, and yet it was never given to him. He's earned every single bit that he's received so far.
Yeah.
I've sat with him. Him and I are incredibly close. Our relationship has grown tremendously on a personal level. Most certainly, I mentor him a lot, but at the same time, this kid, I call him a kid because we have a big age gap, but I don't even view him like that anymore, man. He's sharper than most people I've worked with in the business overall at an incredibly young age. Um, it's certainly interesting. It's certainly interesting because I never expected it. You go from seeing somebody that you see like little brother to all of a sudden you're like, damn, you're sharp. You get it.
Like, wow, you're playing in the big
Which
leagues with me now.
Yeah, and he hangs, man. Like the kid gets it. I tell him all the time. I was like, dude, you're gonna be one of the greats one day. And I again, I most certainly have the privilege to navigate a lot of stuff for him because I've got 20 years ahead of him, man. And uh, many different outfits and that I've been a part of. So there's just experience there that I get to share that knowledge with him personally. But dude, he hangs, man. He's right there with me, and honestly, I'm really proud to be able to be doing this with him side by side. I think I believe the way the organization has evolved. You have Tony and Lito Senior in Dominican Republic, and you're gonna have myself and Lito Junior in the United States. running the business over here, and it's it's going to be a whole new plane of attack. I mean, you got to admire a company that understands that evolution is essential, and they want to evolve yet stay the same. And it's an exciting time. It was also played a really heavy role in why I decided to accept the position, because I've always said I wanted to create everlasting impact in this industry as a whole, and I never really knew what that meant. At one point, I thought it was that I was able to, my previous job, and we did a lot. But now, when I see this company that I admire, it's almost like I get to help architect what the future of that organization is going to be like, and I get to do it with Junior, and it's a really cool time and a really cool feeling, and what we have planned, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I guess to answer your question, man, it's different, but it's fun, and I really don't see him as a little brother anymore. I mean, I may want to protect him like a little brother, but I definitely don't see him as a little brother anymore. He's most certainly an equal and a formidable person to work with. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to be stunning a lot of people within the next 5, 6 years. That's for sure.
Oh, it's really awesome to hear. I mean, I know there's been a lot of changes in the company as well. John Carney
Yeah.
left the company to kind of go and do his own thing as well. And, um, speaking with all of you guys, a little bit here and there over the last year, I know that there's a lot of changes and kind of, regrouping and retooling and just a lot of different things you guys are doing as a company, which, it's never a bad thing. I mean, as a business, you have to learn to evolve. You have to pivot, make changes. I don't think any vastly successful business has ever just done the same thing for 40 years. They've always had to, kind of go back and change. And that's how they, continue to grow. So it's always a good sign. And
Yeah.
at the same time, sometimes, changes are good, sometimes changes are bad, but, at the end of the day, it always helps the company. And you guys, I know you guys have a lot of plans and a lot of things and in the works. But and I don't know I don't know what else I can squeeze out of you tonight. I'm gonna try. It's always exciting to hear. I mean, LFD is also one of those brands where, they don't really do a lot of new projects all the time, which, you know, obviously they're not the only company to do that, and there's something to be said about companies who do and companies who don't, which is a whole nother debate for another time. But regardless, it's never a good or a bad thing one way or the other. Everyone kind of does their own thing. But LFD is also a company that, you know, not always a lot of new things happening all the time. I kind of like to look at it like, they stay focused on kind of, the most important things they have going on. They work on one project at a time. They don't get ahead of themselves. They don't flood the market with a bunch of releases at the same time. And again, it's not bad one way or the other, but it seems to work for them. And now you guys have the Suave coming out in July, I think you said. That's going to be kind of a new look for people.
Yep.
Another thing you guys have always done, as much as we don't like to talk about the TAA a lot here, you've always been known for your TAA release every year, which arguably I think is one of the only really great ones that ever comes out, to be honest. LFD and a few others have always consistently been great releases. Which I believe was it this year that it changed? I think was it this year that you guys went from the Oro to the Emerald? Is that what you guys call it?
The Lido, yeah.
So the Lido is now kind of the TAA release, because I know before
Well,
the last couple years
it was this year.
it was this year.
Yeah.
Now is that going to continue that trend, or is it going to go to something different again for next year?
Well, that is a good question. I will say to answer a lot of of what you just said. I've been able to work with the team. There is an innovation pipeline that we are building. Um, we're in 3 years ahead of planning at the moment. It's that's just something that I brought with me that I learned from the Swiss, which is Very nice. Um,
I like that.
yeah. No, it's this strategic planning. It helps everything, man. From inventory management to procurement. Just strategy and tact. At the end of the day, it benefits retailer and benefits consumer. So that said, there is a lot of plans and some impactful releases that are going to be planned, or that are planned, and that will be happening. Um, there's going to be a little bit of a different approach. Announcements would be made when stock's already ready to ship. So
Oh, from a media standpoint, we appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, well, I think from media and from retailer, and not it's not that they, looking at the picture as a whole, it's not like they were doing anything wrong. They're a small boutique company doing what they do, announcing what they're doing, but versus approaching a little bit different. Moving back to TAA, we do have some plans. Um, it won't be another Lido cigar, but it will be something special and something different. I think it is very important to honor the TAA with special product, and the retailers that are part of the TAA with special product, and we're working on that. It's something we take seriously. As I mean, you mentioned you like them a lot, because we really care. We're not trying to just say like, hey, just throw a different band on that cigar and say that's for
Right,
TA. No, like
right.
there is a lot of intention and planning. You know, Lido Senior started working on TAA stuff like immediately after this year's TAA. So he's ahead, man. He's doing what he does, and I'm sure people will be pleasantly surprised when it comes to this year's TA exclusive. I know I'm stoked about it. I'm traveling to the Dominican Republic on Monday, which is going to be kind of a break for me because that means I may actually sleep. But
Yeah, it's true.
we're there to work on some upcoming projects, and we're there as a family doing our thing, man. And it's an exciting time. I mean, LFD, but LFD, they're not for everyone. They don't try to be for everyone. They make product, and they exist for those who kind of understand the value of patience, beauty, and intensity, and you know I guess the power of moving different, right? And I believe that ethos is really why they are such a special company, and they just kind of stand apart of the crowd because they don't try to fit in. They just do what they do, and they connect with their audience that way.
They're
Um,
genuine.
yeah, I mean, there's a soul, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I like that better. Yeah, yeah, and they stick to it, and they, and that's the thing is, in all seriousness, over the years, people always talked about, well, FDs are the back orders, they always say about the back orders. But the one thing about LFD, look, they're not the only company with back orders. All right, like they all have back orders, some more than others. But in fairness, there's a lot of back orders out there. Ask half of these brands out here, they'll tell you about back orders. But the one thing about LFD is, despite that, and someone once said this to me, was what makes them so good, and what makes, I guess, the biggest argument against that, right, is the fact that not like the quality of the cigars, and what they do with tobacco and everything like that. It's simply some of the best. I mean, they have some of the absolute best quality cigars. I will say that myself. I mean, we smoke a lot of different stuff all the time, as you know. We smoke a lot of different stuff, and that's not to say that other brands are shit or whatever, but we smoke a lot of different stuff. You gotta get a feel of like what's quality and what's not. Now, to the untrained eye, they all might be great. When you've been doing this as long as, I mean, I have, or even as long as Eddy has, obviously a lot longer than me. You pick up on the little details. And the one thing about LFD is their cigars are very consistently top-notch quality. Very rarely do I ever have a burn problem with them, a taste problem with them. They look like shit. They always look perfect. They always look great. The tobaccos always look the best quality. So, yeah, sometimes you might wait a little bit longer for it, but I always have felt like the wait's always been worth it, because at least you're getting something that's worth waiting for, if that makes sense. It's nice to see that continue. Because so easily it could go the other way. It could be like, well, I mean, the cigars are okay, so like whatever. But no, people appreciate, I think, the quality of the product being so high level, that they will wait for it, if it's not
Yeah,
immediately available.
I mean, I think the back order issue all these years in the past has been a testament to the brand. I mean, if you want to look at it positively, right? You know, demand immensely outweighs supply. And in any other category of consumer packaged goods, so if you want to talk about spirits, what did people do? I mean, they follow traditional supply and demand law, which is, well, fuck it, we're just going to make it that much more expensive, right? LFD, if I were to compare it to something like, I could, that's we're talking about bourbon, it's Willet, it's freaking Weller, it's, you know, Weller, no one complains that they can't find it anymore. All people did now was quadruple the price. LFD still to today, their commitment to their consumer, they've never raised, like, I mean, I'm sure incremental costly prices, but like they've never, it's still one of the most affordable cigars you could acquire at such a high level. And what's mind blowing to me as a consumer before I got the position that I got is even their limited products that people fight tooth and nail for. They're not even limited products that are like 20, 30, $40 like everybody else is. I mean, Bulls are still 18 bucks.
I get them for
That's what everyone
14.99.
goes. But you see what I'm saying? And that is to me a family that sticks true to their commitment to this is what we make our cigars for. We make like Lito Sr. says this a lot, and I know like he means it genuinely, like, and you can see it in his face when he's like, people ask me for my autograph. I want to get their autograph. These are people that are buying the stuff that I'm making. And it's not like there's 20 people in between them. Like
Yeah.
he's genuinely, it'd be just like if you decided to quit your job tomorrow and start making cigars and all of a sudden you're on fire, but you still, even 30 years into it, you can't believe the demand on these products. And he's not out there saying, I'm going to make better cigars than this person. We're going to make better cigars than that person. And that is not the drive. It is pure authenticity of like, we just want to make good cigars the right way because this is just the way we do it. And yeah, we're on back order a lot because every time we even send our cigars, they just completely evaporate, right? There's just people are swallowing them up. Um, there's plans to mitigate all that and get like a lot of procurement structure and everything going on. So that probably is not the case moving forward. They're working heavily on that, but it's like a really fine dance because they don't ever, 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 he refuses to compromise quality. So
Right.
I've been a part of many companies where it's like, well, if this wrapper doesn't exist, we could get one that looks just like it and we could just say it is what it is. And that's what I want to say 90% of companies do in order to get product out. They refuse to do that. And there's something incredibly admirable about that. I mean, being in the tobacco business for me was never work. It was a passion that turned into a career. And somewhere in the middle of that passion got annihilated when the curtain was lifted and I saw a lot of what happens. Um, and it is incredibly refreshing to be able to see authenticity through and through now, you
Yeah.
know? And that's LFD, and it's take it or leave it, dude. Like they could easily, you know, grab their products that are $10 right now and charge 25, and people would pay for it if it was in stock. People would, but they refuse to do that. And you know, that's pretty big on them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah. I agree, and um, it's gonna be exciting to watch. The next couple of years for LFD, and how kind of things are changing, and new stuff you guys are working on, and it'll all be exciting to see. So I can't wait. And like, yeah, and the quality, man. You know, the quality of cigars are top notch, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to buy cigars at a great quality for a great price. You just don't see that a lot anymore. And look, and everyone's got their expenses. I get it. Everyone's got to do what works for them. You know, the economy as a whole is a complicated issue. You know, see, you really can't beat on anyone too hard about it. But for those like you guys who, you know, or a couple others, you know, that have really been able to mitigate it and keep it at a good place, you know, even through all this, you know, that's very commendable. I mean, it's not, and I know it's not easy to do. I know there's a lot of companies that eat costs, and you know, there's some companies that have eaten the tariffs. That sucks. That just means we're just going to put less money in our pocket so that you guys can continue to enjoy the product and not have it affect you. You know, which is a bold move, but you know, I think it's, you know, if you can do that, I think it's the right move to make. I mean, keep your customers happy, you know. But I do want to pause here because we want to get into our trivia segment, brought to you by Perdomo Cigars. That's right, featuring our 30th anniversary. Our cigar of the year. I totally botched that. I'm sorry. Our cigar of the year, the 30th anniversary Sun-Grown Epicure, and now the Perdomo Legacy, which has officially, it's officially launched. It went on sale 2 weeks ago. Two Guys Smoke Shop, but it's getting its national launch end of June. I think June 23rd or something like that. It'll go to all the stores. So for those who haven't gotten a chance to try it yet, don't worry, it'll be there June 23rd. So trivia. It's our trivia spot for the week. Normally Pat does this, which means I have to do it now. Fucking Pat, let me down, man. It's okay. I know what it's like to do this show solo. I've done it plenty of times, so it's fun. But yeah, so I don't know how Pat normally sources his, because that, like I said, this has always been his segment. But I'm going to do my best to mirror the kinds of questions that he pulls out. He's usually pretty good. I'm not the best with trivia, so he definitely stumps me most of the time. But you know, I like to try to keep to like history and science and shit like that. I feel like pop culture is too 50-50. Either someone who's good at that or they're not at all. So, all right, it's just you. So I'm not answering any of these. You're gonna answer them, and hopefully, which I have a good feeling because I know you're a very intelligent guy. So,
debatable.
Debatable. Oh man. So anyway, I'll rattle some of these off for you, and we'll see what you get. In what year? First question: what year did World War I begin?
Did it begin?
Yeah.
1926.
No. It was before that.
Well, fuck. Do I get multiple choice or
I'll give
1924?
I'll give you another like two guesses. See if you can figure it out. I want to see you try. You know, I don't want to just be like, "Ha! You didn't get it. You suck." You know, I'm nice. It was before that though.
What year did World War II? No, World War One.
World War One, not two.
Oh.
World War II was like what, 1933?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
1915.
did you say 1915?
Yeah.
Very close. It was 1914.
All right.
You were very close. It's still the beginning of the war. I mean, I'll give it to you. That's close.
Yeah.
Pat would have been like, "Nope, you got it wrong."
I
Boy.
was into World War II stuff. I mean, back in the day, I used to watch History Channel, but it all started because I got into like Band of Brothers and all that like a long time ago. But
yeah.
World War One was never my shtick.
Me too. Like I always,
It wasn't sexy.
When I was a kid, I hated school. I always found it boring. And then the irony is, as I got older, and I spent a lot of nights in my office, like doing things. And then you get to, you know, and you probably know the routine. You're answering emails. I'm writing on the website. And then I look and it's like 9:45, and I'm like, fuck, I'm just tired. And then you just start doing something mindless, and I always seem to like just roll into like reading, just like history stuff or whatever. And sometimes you kind of roll into the Wikipedia and you're just like going, and then you go down that rabbit hole where you like read about one thing and you're like, oh, what's that? And then you go that and that and that. Before you know it, you're reading about something so fucking random. You're like, what is this? So my point is as I got older, I ended up started reading like a lot of history stuff. So then I just started reading like World War II and like the different countries and the different battles and shit like that. And it's just like, oh wow, if only I was this into this like 20 years ago, it would have been very helpful. But it's a little too late now. Yeah. At least I know it. At least I mean, some of it. I know some of it now.
I enjoy it. I enjoy this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's just part of getting old. Who was the first president to visit all 50 states?
Fuck, dude, come on, dude. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to make it interesting.
You kidding me, dude?
What is Coca-Cola's primary color? Oh, red. Yay. Like, come on.
Yeah, dude.
That's what you want.
I'm not even gonna attempt to answer this. That is a.
All right, I'll tell you the answer. I'll give you some other ones, but I'll give you the answer, and I'm curious to know if it even like shocks you or not. It's Richard Nixon.
That actually makes a lot of sense because when you start thinking about travel, how they were able to travel during those times,
Yeah.
how long they were in presidency for, dude. Even today's presidents, do you think they visited all 50 states even when they were campaigning? Probably not.
No. If they did, like, barely and like one visit, because there's a lot of states that they visit several times on the trail, so.
Nixon.
Let's see. I'm trying to find one that's a little bit, all right, let's go to geography. Okay.
All right.
I feel like this one's mainstream enough where you should know. Which U.S. state is known as the Land of 10,000 Lakes?
Which U.S. state is known as the Land of 10,000 Lakes?
Yes. It's a northern state.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks.
Thanks. I don't know why I thought that was funny. When I think of this state, I think of Canada. And I don't think that's directly giving it away, because that could be like one of like 5 states. I'm starting to feel better about this, because I feel like you're worse at this than I am.
Yeah, no, I certainly am.
This is the most uncomfortable segment of the whole show for everybody.
No, because this is like, are you smarter than a 5th grader?
Yeah. And, newsflash, almost everyone who does it is not.
Yeah, no, I'll get into something. I'm gonna cheap shot into Michigan, but
no.
Is it Michigan?
No,
okay.
Close,
Anywho.
Very close, but no.
Wisconsin?
No. Your last guess.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Minnesota.
They're all neighbors.
Yeah, they're all up there,
They're all up there. Dude, my nephew the other day, my sister-in-law was like, "Hey, could you help out my nephew with some of his math questions?" Kids in 3rd grade, and I was, because like I'm a math dude, and they gave me his homework, and I literally had to sit there and was like, "What the fuck is this?" It's like, this isn't even a math question. I couldn't even answer a 3rd grader's homework question. I was like, "How's this kid supposed to figure this out?" It was humbling, as they say. So.
Yeah, I'm starting to think back to when I was in school, and I thought that shit was difficult. And I've heard about what some of the kids are learning now, and I'm like, dude, I barely made it through school back in the day. I mean, that was my fault. That wasn't the school's fault. But
Yeah,
you know,
still,
I don't know if I even would have came that close today. Like, holy shit.
Dude, no man. My friend's son, who's in sixth grade, has built his own GPT bot that quizzes him and tutors him. And it's like school projects, and they're doing programming. They're doing also. I'm like sixth grade.
He
It
did
makes
that
a lot of sense for
himself?
the times. Yes, like
Is it one of those moments where you're just like, yeah, I feel stupid? Like, because I know I do.
I do, but it's certainly like an evolution of time and technology and the way we consume, which in my field, I feel like it's incredibly important because if you start thinking of, look, all right, you asked me about Junior, right? Lito
Right.
Junior.
Yep.
His consumption of information is significantly different than my consumption of information. And if you start thinking about that is the future of consumers in our industry, you got to think of the medium that they use to consume information. And you can say, yeah, social media, duh. But the way they consume social media is different than the way we consume social media. It's no longer static images. It is, hyper movement, fast, boom, 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 5 second clips onto the next. It's so short lived, but it still needs to be impactful. And you got to evolve all your marketing tactics and your communication to end user consumer, thinking of who's going to be consuming your product in the next few years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so it's super important to kind of stick with the times. You know what I mean? And this is why they say evolve or die. I just think that's a lot more prevalent nowadays because society's evolving at hyper speeds versus before. I mean, could you imagine have gone to prison 20 years ago? Think of what's happened in 20 years. Like 20 years ago, people were using Blackberries still.
BBM was a thing.
Dude,
2005. Where
my
was I in
B
2005? I was in the 5th grade in 2005.
oh, but think about that. Like, what were people, you had BBM and that was like, oh my God, there's this cool messenger, neat, to everything that evolved, like social media kicked off after that. In 20 years, you're gonna come out of this hole and it's man, like AI, like I was watching on the news yesterday, China announced this floating warship that's a drone that has 1,000 drones in it that leave, and all 1,000 drones are kamikaze drones. Like it is fucking Terminator is happening
Oh yeah. It's
in
it, it it's
in
gonna
in
yeah.
real life,
Yep.
and it's happened so quickly, and it's going to move so much faster with technology. So, I mean, our whole lives, if you don't adapt and evolve, you're going to be prehistoric. Like, I don't even think living off the grid is going to even be sustainable anymore. Like, it's just
Well, yeah,
wild.
I think that's the reason, that's part of the reason why there's such this political drive with AI between like the U.S. and Russia and China and some other countries, and because I think that is going to be the way of the future, so heavily relied upon, like we've seen in movies for the last 50 fucking years. It really is going to happen, and I think it's one of the reasons why. I'm not making this a political discussion, but to make a point, in Trump's last presidency, he famously started the Space Force, which I know a lot of people laughed at. But I think people thought like, oh yeah, like he's starting like, like Halo, we're going to fight wars in space. I don't necessarily think that's what it means. I think what it means is as time goes on and technology gets more advanced, and you're even seeing it with other things right now, there's like, you look at, for example, the fighter jets, right? As time goes on, they want to build fighter jets that are unmanned, and that way they can have
It's happening.
planes just fight each other without having a pilot in there, and then you don't have the loss of life, and human error. It's all computer controlled, and you don't lose a life, which I'm sure that's not even why they care about the most. But regardless, I think it's because wars are going to be fought digitally and electronically over cyber warfare. I think that will be the future. Just shit like that. Like it's not going to be like troops on the ground in World War II. It's like no, like
No,
that's going to go
no,
away.
at
It's going to
all.
be very different.
You were talking about World War One, and then I started talking about Band of Brothers. And all I could think of, like in the back of my brain, is back then war was so brutal, it was so like face to
Yeah.
face and gnarly, versus now. I mean, it's horrible and whatever still, but it's all done while you're sitting inside a container in Nevada somewhere, manning drones, right?
Exactly.
It's wild. We'll move on from that, just so we don't
Yeah, no, I
transition
know.
to.
But
But
anyway, but to make the point, but
yeah,
yes, it's true. Like the way life has
so
evolved.
marketing has evolved, and you know, it's interesting. By the way, we live in and we participate in what I would call one of the final true luxuries of the world, premium cigars, right?
Yeah.
Because I highly believe real luxury moving forward is going to be human made. Anything human made, like a simple handwritten letter is luxury because it's time, it's human made, versus some digital, like speaking to something and it spits it out, and it's meaningless. When you used to write a letter to somebody and mail it, you took the time, you sat down, there was a lot of emotion, there was a lot of soul put into this letter, and you sent it to somebody and it meant a lot. Nowadays it's, I think today I fired off 120 emails. Like, who gives a shit, right? So premium cigars is like one of those final products that is a true luxury, because there's nothing robotic behind it. It is pure artisanal craft,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's cool as fuck to be able to participate and contribute to an industry like this.
Yeah, and I agree. As time goes on, it's gonna be less and less of stuff like this. And yeah, when something's made by hand, even today, I see, depending on what it is, certain things in like, oh, that's handmade. You're like, oh wow. You still kind of stop and go like, oh wow, that's handmade. Like that's still like, hmm, takes you back a little bit. Like, oh, we're so used to everything being so mass produced and machine made and just run it off on the press. You know what I mean? It's that when you see something,
And
you're like, oh shit,
instantaneous,
handmade. That's nice.
and we want instant now.
Yeah.
So um, there's a lot of beauty in that, and I hope as an industry we kind of keep that.
I think that as an industry, there's a lot to be learned from the new technology, but at the same time, there's only so much of it I think you really could use because of the point you just made. So
Yeah.
it will be interesting to see how you enhance the business with new technologies going forward. But at the same time, once you start using artificial intelligence machines to start rolling cigars for you, I mean, yeah, they might be good, but it's not knocking its machine-made cigars. But when they're all handmade or when they're all machine-made, yeah, it's gonna take a lot out of it. It won't be as special anymore. It'll be like, oh yeah, they ran these on the machine. It's great.
Yeah, I mean that is my whole thing. Like, why also just why working for a small family operation is special, right? I've been on all sides of the field. I know what it's like when spreadsheets make decisions versus when a family says, no, we're going to do this because we believe in XYZ. Whether right decision or wrong decision, it is personal every time those decisions are made, right? And that is such a unique piece to our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Like,
Looking,
when do
look,
we get away from emotion and only operate on data? You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
like,
And, well, and it's funny, 'cause, you get. I know Carney is over at at Bentley. He's got his AI cigar project going on over there. So they got the AI that they dumped it all in, and it spit out like the blend or whatever. I think is how
yeah, but
he's
that
doing
was
it.
as AI as it was. It wasn't like an AI cigar, right? Like, he did
Right.
an AI questionnaire in order to get human data, and it's still being human made. Not to talk about his product or anything like that, but like
No,
they
yeah, I
still
know.
kept it authentic, to give
No,
them
but my
props.
point, no, but my point is like that was cool, but then it's like 10 years from now, what happens, So it's like it'll be interesting, it'll be, and the thing is,
Yeah,
every company will do something different, because everyone kind of has a different, modus operandi and method to their madness. Um,
yeah,
so
I agree.
yeah, it'll be cool to watch as a consumer. It'll be cool to watch. Um, as a business person such as yourself, it's like, what are they doing, and what can we do? And so it'll be. I think it'll be interesting on both fronts. Um, but having said all that, looking at the time, we still have one more segment to get in quickly before we wrap up the show,
Let's
and that
go.
is it's our news segment brought to you by Micallef Cigars, featuring the new Color Series with the black, blue, red, and now the purple. Micallef Cigars, Smoke the Rainbow, with more colors on the way. Now, I'm a little bit behind on the news. I'm just going to be open and honest about it. I'm a little bit behind on a couple of things, given what I've been dealing with the last few weeks. Been doing my best, but unfortunately, it's just a little bit of an overwhelming time. But we'll get through it and move past it. But so I don't have a shit ton of stuff in front of me that's ready to go. But what I do have is a couple of things that have come out. One of them being an announcement from Tatuaje, which they announced, I want to say early this week, no, end of last week, that their pork tenderloin will be shipping this week. For those who don't know, and Eddie, I know you know,
Hmm.
pork tenderloin was a release that Pete originally came out with as a store exclusive for Gloucester Street Cigars right here in Boston, many years ago. It's also, from what I understand, the origin from the Monster series, which was also originally done through that store. That store is no longer here anymore. It's gone. But it went on to become very highly sought after, and it was one of the more famous releases that Pete has ever done, and incredible cult following. It's been listed in lists of greatest cigars of all time, and most sought after, rarest cigars, whatever. It was released again in 2016, although not really the same. From what I understand, it was a much smaller release. It was more of a event exclusive kind of thing. I may have some of that wrong, but it was a much smaller run. And then a couple years ago, Pete did the Lomo de Cerdo, which was a Mexican San Andreas version, which he was doing as part of his Tuxla series, where he was kind of doing Mexican San Andreas wrappers on a lot of his famous products, like T110 and some of his other stuff. But he mentioned before the trade show that the pork tenderloin would be coming back this year. It was not showcased at the trade show, and when I asked Pete about it, he said, "Well, we really didn't want it to take, because obviously it's going to attract a lot of attention. We didn't want it to take away from everything else that we're working on that we're really proud of." So he said, I kind of decided to leave it out, but it is coming, and that now it's shipping to stores. So 5,000 bundles will be made. It's Connecticut broadleaf, Nicaraguan binder and filler. For those who have smoked the originals, like myself, I'm excited to see, how the same they are and maybe how much they've changed. I don't know. I don't know if you ever smoked any of the old ones, Eddie, but I know you've been around, but it'll be interesting to see the least. I mean, like I said earlier, I love broadleaf, and so I'm really excited about this one myself. 5,000 bundles, $13 per cigar. It's $3.25 for the bundle. Your local Tatuaje retailer will most likely have a couple bundles in stock at least, so I would reach out to them today if you're interested in securing one for yourself. And that is our news this week, brought to you by Micallef Cigars. But heading back to Eddie, who is really the star of the show tonight, the most important person on the show tonight.
Hey,
Hey,
How you doing?
that's right.
how you doing?
We talked a lot about kind of your life changes and some of the things that maybe not too specifically, but that's fine. But kind of overall, what's going on at LFD with you, with the company, kind of everything moving forward. We talked about a couple of different products. We just had the trade show. Got to see you guys there. You guys were doing great. Business as usual, I think, for you guys. While starting to kind of do some things behind the scenes. at the show. I think it was kind of business as usual. But is there anything that maybe consumers can look forward to maybe later in the year from LFD? Is there anything else that maybe is yet to
Yes.
come that you can talk about, even if it's just a tease?
Yes. We did talk about it at the show briefly. Um,
Oh,
so briefly, kind of. So on Eddie's personal list of favorites, I'm not saying it's the company's list of favorites, Eddie's list of favorites.
hmm.
This fantastic cigar right here, the LFD Oro,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love those.
It is an outrageous cigar, in my opinion, for my flavor profile. Um, they're the ones that you see everywhere in the gold tubes. They're normally in a box of 5 gold tubes. That is the only way you could acquire these. You have a chisel, you have the equivalent of a Toro, and a Maduro version. 3 cigars.
Very strong.
Yeah. Uh, LFD, we are going to release these toward the end of the year and moving into 20 count boxes,
Oh,
not in a tube,
just regular box.
just regular box, 20 count box. So, what does that do? One, it makes it significantly more accessible for consumers. This is going to make a full permanent core line. Um, and there will be some additional sizes added to that. So, it'll be a full in-house line with uh 5 vitolas. It's going to be fantastic. The 20 count boxes will ship in July of the original 3 sizes. So that's going to be exciting. So with that removal of said tube, that means said consumer will find a savings on average of $2 per cigar,
Hmm.
which is also fantastic. Um, but in all seriousness, man, this is an incredible cigar, and I'm super pumped about it. The story behind it, I never really understood why it existed as a consumer. I always asked it, like, hey, what's up with this? And so, like, I learned a lot when I joined the company on why this cigar is special. And I think the story kind of made me fall in love with it a little bit more, even though it still is one of my favorite blends that they've ever made. I mean, everyone knows Lito. Lito was a jeweler
Right.
prior to, and he no longer is a jeweler because he was robbed at gunpoint and almost lost his life. And
Hmm.
he decided to just say, fuck it, life is not worth this bullshit, right? And he left his full-blown career and jumped right into tobacco full time. So, in my opinion, and this cigar commemorates that, right? This is his, how do you turn tragedy and loss into triumph? You turn a messed up situation into something positive and you thrive from it. If it wasn't for that, LFD would never have existed, you know, if you really look at it that way.
Yeah.
So I think that story makes me fall in love with a cigar a little bit more because I think we all, as humans, go through some really tough times and we deal with those tough times differently. But it's always motivating to see that even in the darkest of hours, you could turn anything into something positive. You just got to give it a little bit of time and you got to give it a little bit of grit and a little bit of energy, and things always end up panning out in the future. And that's kind of what this blend represents and this line represents. And so that's going to be coming out. That is going to be super cool. Uh,
I wanted to ask
I,
you more
yeah.
specifically. I'm going to use the in-house code name for it, as I'm sure you
Okay.
probably you should pick up on. Because I don't want to give it away, because I know it's not really super public knowledge, but you know what the long day is, right?
I smoked one a little while ago.
Yeah. So, are there any plans to maybe move that forward publicly, or is it still kind of in the back burner for now?
Um, I think what you will find with the long day, look, the long day is Junior's personal size.
Yeah.
Um, what you're gonna find with the long days, you'll see some LEs in the future where you'll see some that combined with tonight, which is the personal side of Lennox that Tony created for his wedding.
Oh,
You
okay,
may
that
see
makes
those
sense.
you may see those put together in like an LE package here, there, like very unique, where things get donated to charity on funds from that. But you know, I think the long day will always remain the personal stash. It must be handed to you. It's got to be one of those if you know, you know type
Mm-hmm.
things. As far as like publicly commercially available, I don't see that anytime in the near future. One thing and let me tell you, this is something why I love this family, right? Anywhere else I would have worked at, they would have said, "Ooh, this is in demand. Let's commercialize it. Let's put some data behind it and margins, and let's see how many millions we can make off of this." You know, a family will say, "No, this is special. It's not for sale. This is mine, and that's why it's going to be gifts to people that mean something to us." And to be able to have that restraint and not that greed of a corporation, but more of this is like a family thing, is kind of what makes it special. So, as far as I know, the long day will always remain. You have to just know Junior in order to get the long day, which it is a spectacular damn cigar.
I still have a decent amount left.
Oh
And
wow!
they're
Most
they're
most people can't say amounts. Most people will say I have one. So
I may or may not have received a bundle from
I,
Junior a little while back.
I will tell you this, that there is something dude, like there's something special being created, to commemorate the birth of my son. It was a
Oh.
surprise. Um, which that'll be, I guess, Eddie's version of Long Day, whatever that means. So we'll see what's up. You may or may not get a bundle of that, but
Oh. We'll have to see.
yeah, there's but that is the beauty of a family-owned company that understands artisanship and what should be commercial and what should not, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, that is fun, and I remember, when my daughter was born, I got several gifts from some manufacturers, that were special for her, and you look at and they were all family companies too. They weren't big companies, but it's cool. This community, the industry, it's a very special, it's this very special place. On a personal side, there's a lot of cool stuff that comes out of it. Great people, lots of celebrating. It's a lot of celebrating, and if anything, it's a business that knows family, unlike most or any other. And they're very quick to celebrate that, which I think is great. It's refreshing, and I think it's important, and it's nice to see somewhere. There's a lot of businesses and places you don't see it that much anymore. You know, it's not about that. So no, it is. I fully agree with you. But yeah, I figured I'd ask because that was definitely it's definitely a favorite of mine, and arguably I think it's one of the best cigars they've ever made. Um, I I
Yeah.
really believe that it's good. It's really good. And that size does it justice. It's very very good.
Do you
But
know why it's called a long day?
I did, but I seem to have forgotten. But if you tell me, I'll probably remember. You don't have to tell me
It's
now.
because they
Oh.
they, they struggle pronouncing the word Longsdale in the factory. The workers are like,
Oh.
this is the long day,
Oh,
and
I don't
said
think
long
that's
day was born.
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's a Lonsdale.
Yeah,
It's a Lonsdale, but it's a great fucking Lonsdale, man. Oh, it's so good.
yeah.
But anyway, we're running out of time. I'm sorry, I have to run. So that's going to be our show for this week. Eddie, thank you so much for being here
Thank
with
you,
me.
man.
Congratulations on everything that's been going for you lately, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I
Thank you.
I can't wait to watch you grow. So with all the new stuff you have going on, so it'd be really cool. For everyone at home, thank you for watching and being here with us tonight. Don't forget to go to smokintabacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates from the cigar industry. We'll see you Saturday night for the Spare Note series, the long-awaited return of the Spare Note series, which I think we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks straight. So There's going to be a lot of spare notes coming up, so stay tuned for that. And, yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So we'll see you guys Saturday night. Take care, everybody.